In this episode of the I Can't See You podcast, I'll talk about prep work that we're doing for the NFB's annual Washington seminar. This year it's going to be virtual. I'll also talk about my computer conundrum in our living room. I need one, but it's not that easy.
From Studio C, welcome to the I Can't See You podcast with David. He can't see, but he's got a lot to say and a face for radio.
Hello there, and welcome to episode 110 of the I Can't See You podcast. My name is David, at David Benj on all the socials. I really appreciate you joining me for today's episode, and I'm going to try and keep it brief again. Let's see how that works out. I know it hasn't in the past, but I only have a couple of things to talk about. It's another solo episode, and I'll tell you why in a couple of minutes. The couple of things that I want to talk about, not really related, but it's things that have me thinking all week long since I last recorded a podcast episode. And I'm recording this late at night on the 27th of January. And I'll get into why, because I'm not getting a lot of computer time during the day. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But before I get into that, I want to mention what I've been doing as far as National Federation of the Blind stuff goes. And anybody who has worked with or volunteered for or has done anything in a nonprofit and for an organization, there's always a whole bunch of stuff going on. And this is the time of year that the NFB, the National Federation of the Blind, gets ready for Washington Seminar. And what that is, it's where a whole bunch of blind folks get together in Washington. They have a big meeting the first night. It's called the Great Gathering. And they usually have a senator or a representative talking to us about stuff that's going on. They've been great speakers the last couple of years. It's been awesome, and it's packed. I mean, the room is packed. There's like 500 people, and there's usually not that much room in the giant ballroom that we have, so there's usually spillover rooms where I was going to say watch on closed circuit, but I mean, we're blind, so we're just really listening, right? And last year, as a matter of fact, I stood all the way in the back of the room, and I had, I couldn't see who was what, and but again, I was just there to listen, so it didn't matter. And so this year, obviously, it's a little bit different. And it's where we go. The NFB comes up with an agenda of things that they need to either fix or have, get, I guess fix is the best word, where we have to advocate for ourselves. And some of the things this year, there's something that's been proposed, and it's been on the agenda for the last few years, the Access Technology Affordability Act, where would give folks who are blind a $2,000 tax break over the course of 3 years to buy technology that allows them to either have a job or go to school or whatever. And, the stuff is not cheap. Everything that you use, for example, as a blind student, my friend Simon uses this thing called a Braille note or something like that. And it's this device. It's a little bit smaller than a laptop, but it's how he takes notes and he types on it, not like a traditional keyboard, that he can then feel, with the Braille, what he's written down as he's going through everything. It costs like $5,000 or $6,000. If you're a sighted student, you go to Staples, you buy a pen, you buy a notebook, and you're out a few bucks. You don't need to finance that. But a blind student needs that. And there's other things. I mean, when you're talking about a blind student, you're probably looking at somewhere around $10,000 worth of technology just to put them on the same playing field as a sighted student. So that's one of the things that, and there was a bill introduced last year. I don't remember the number. This year it's HR 431. It's already been introduced in the House. There hasn't been a Senate companion come up yet, but hopefully that'll happen. And last year there was one of each, but it just never came to a vote. I know there were a lot of co-sponsors, both in the House and the Senate, and so this one has already dropped, the HR 431. So that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about. And there's some other things, medical devices. If you can't see, how do you do a blood pressure monitor or diabetes monitor or whatever, any kind of healthcare, home healthcare stuff? if you need some help, then you're not independent. You can't do it on your own because this stuff isn't accessible. And that at one point last year, the last couple of years, that had been lumped in with other household equipment, microwave ovens, washing machines, and so forth. And I know I've complained about both of those a lot. And my microwave here at our house is not accessible, and our stove is not accessible. And there's touch screens, and our washer. We haven't tried the app yet, so I don't know how accessible that is, and I'll get into VoiceOver in a few minutes. But Washington Seminar, I always love going down there. I can go on my own. I get to the train station in Swarthmore where I live. It's only about a mile from our house. And I get the train into Philly, and then from Philly down to DC. Usually there's some time at the beginning where I can do a little sightseeing, or on the last day, if I'm not included in the meetings with the senators' aides, then I have the whole morning before my train heads from DC back to Philly. And and I usually schedule that so it's on Liz's way home, so she can just stop by and pick me up. So I try to make it work out that way. And so I have a good chunk of the morning and early into the afternoon before I have to get to the train station to catch the train back to Philly. So I always try to do something touristy, whether it's, one year I went with one of my NFB Keystone Chapter member friends. We went to the Washington Monument, Lincoln Memorial, and Capitol, and just to take some pictures. And again, sounds funny, blind guy taking pictures. I love taking pictures. I don't know how good they are, and I get mad when they're not. If something isn't centered or it's a little crooked, I get mad at that. But I can't usually tell until I look at it on a big screen, like my computer monitor or the TV. When you mirror your phone on, through Apple TV, I get mad. Like I was complaining about a picture the other day I took of the dog, and it wasn't perfect. I cut off a little bit of his paw, and just a teeny tiny bit, maybe just a nail. And Liz was making fun of me because it wasn't exactly perfect. And I was mad. I mean, it's a good picture, though. And you can check that out on Instagram at David Benj, or I also posted that one at both our accounts. Ziggy and the Man, Ziggy, ZIGGYANDTHEMAN, or at David Benj, also both on Instagram. And that picture is there because he was 10 weeks old yesterday. And I'll get into Ziggy in a minute. But this year for Washington Seminar, it's different because it's going to be virtual. So, there's a lot of different things going on, because usually we're set up in, 3 or 4 person teams to go into, because we're part of the National Federation of the Blind of Pennsylvania, you go and talk to representatives from Pennsylvania. So usually you have one person in the group has this representative, and 1 or 2 people in the group have this other representative. And then sometimes you go where there's not, nobody that's in that congressional district, but you just go and, you're going to, lobby the rep for, the stuff that's on the agenda. And, it's always important. And does it always come to fruition? No, not usually. But, every year we fight for things that we need. And, again, it's always a lot of fun. I learn a lot of stuff. I get to see some things. Last year I went to the American Jewish War Museum, which was very interesting, and I had gone there in hopes of maybe showing if they, loaning a shadow box of stuff that my mom put together from when my dad was a POW, and it was a very small place. So there's a museum in Philadelphia that that may be better suited for that. So I enjoyed my day there. But I wasn't gonna offer it there. I'd rather go to there's some Jewish American museum in Philadelphia that might be better suited for, and then I could at least go and see it whenever I wanted to. But we'll see. I haven't done anything in a while for that. So, but it's always fun. We go out to dinner, sometimes with people in the Keystone chapter, sometimes other people from the NFB of Pennsylvania, and sometimes, it's a mix of people from Pennsylvania and some other states. Last year, I went to a restaurant with some folks from the Greater Philadelphia chapter, and there were some people from one person was from Virginia, and there was a few people from Maryland, and a couple people from Georgia. So that was a lot of fun, and it was a great restaurant. It was called Oohs and Ahs, which, if you watch Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, was a place that Guy went to for mac and cheese, and it was just outstanding. So that's, I'm going to miss that, but so because it's virtual this year, it's just very different. And it's kind of sad because I always look forward to going down to Washington and doing this. So hopefully next year it'll be back where we can go in person. But there's just been a lot of prep, a lot of, doing role playing, and you never know what the congressperson is going to say when you bring up these different things. You kind of anticipate, but you just don't know. They might be really for it, or they might say, you know what, this is horrible. It would cost people in my district too much money, or it won't help enough people, or whatever. You just don't know. So we've been preparing for that, and it's just been very interesting preparing for that, because it's just, like I said, so different. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about today has been, it's kind of a Ziggy update and a conundrum for me. And again, just like I was mentioning with the technology that a blind student needs over a sighted student needing just a legal pad and a pen, when we got Ziggy, we knew that the only time he was going to be in the crate or cage was going to be overnight until he was potty trained. And, once he was done being potty trained, as we did with Zamboni, we took the door off and he could go in and out as he wanted. And maybe that's where he would sleep at night. Maybe it wouldn't be. Maybe he, so it's been difficult because he hasn't come down to the basement level where Studio B is. That's what the B is in Studio B, basement. And, as I mentioned last week, it's not very puppy proof because we still have a lot of stuff in boxes. The floor is horrible, as I've mentioned, because it was okay before they got done doing the work. But, they didn't really keep it clean when they, so they're spackling all over the floor and paint all over the floor. It just wasn't, I think the contractor thought we were immediately going to get carpet, and we were hoping to leave the floor with whatever the coating is. I don't know if it's a tile or a treatment. But at this point, we're going to have to get something to cover it up, whether it's carpeting or some sort of laminate or whatever. But so I don't know what's on the floor. So we've got to run a vacuum over it, and we've got to put some things away, because there's, as anybody who's had a puppy, if there's something for them to find, they will find it. And we found that out just in our backyard with him going after wood chips and all sorts of other things like that. Little pebbles. We've had some trash blow into our yard because, as I've mentioned before, the fence along the back is very low, and it's not a solid fence. It's like as I mentioned, kind of like a barbed wire fence without the barbs, and it's only about 2.5, 3 feet tall. So we're getting that replaced, in 6 to 8 weeks or so, we've been told. So we'll see how that goes. But if they could find something. If there's something they shouldn't have, they'll find it, and that's, there's too many things in the office that, Studio B, that they will, that he can find. So once we get that taken care of, hopefully he can come down more. The other thing, as I mentioned also, our stairs coming down to our basement are, kind of steep. They're wooden with a metal plate right at the end, like a non-slip metal. It's got ridges, so it's kind of tricky coming down for me, even because it's hard to see. And then the railing, it's just a railing. There's no spindles or anything. So once it opens up after the wall from the first level, it opens up, so he could just go right off like the 4th or 5th step down. And he started to come down today. I tried to work with him on it. and it made me nervous. And then he stopped. He got a little scared, so I picked him up and we went back up. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to pick him up and carry him around, because it's unbelievable how he's growing right in front of our eyes. We've had him 17 days, and it's just amazing how much bigger he is now than when we brought him home. So the conundrum is, I can't use a laptop because I can't see it. And as I've mentioned, I don't want to say a hybrid of VoiceOver, but I use what's called text-to-speech. I don't use VoiceOver on a computer. And so I was hoping that I could use an iPad that Jane had from when she was in school that has a keyboard on it. It's really nice. It almost feels like a laptop, but basically a laptop with a touch screen. Problem is, Jane's use of it was when she was a senior in high school, which wasn't yesterday. It was 6 years ago. So, she's been out of college. This spring is 2 years out of school. So maybe even more than over 6 years ago, she used this iPad. So it just wasn't working right. And as I've mentioned before, and as anyone who uses technology doesn't always work the same. And sometimes there's conflicts. Well, VoiceOver, there's always conflicts. And so I was trying to use it the other day. So I'm trying to use this, 2014 version of this iPad that, with an iPad, you touch it, you want something to go, you touch the button and boom, it makes it work. And with VoiceOver, so you touch the button and you hear what it is, and then you lift your finger up if you want to do it. If you don't, you move your finger and feel around for something else. And then once you find what you want, you lift up and it does whatever, or it reads whatever. So I'm touching the screen and it's not saying anything. And then 5 or 8 seconds later, it says what I'm touching. So it was just running slowly. The keyboard didn't work very well. I'm trying to type in a password, and I'm typing fairly quickly. I don't type as great as I used to, but I've been typing, since I was in middle school. Not on computers. I mean, I guess they had them. I guess they had them. Then I'm not 100% sure. We learned on typewriters, both in high school and in middle school. So. So I'm typing my password in, and of course I can't see the key, so I'm typing it in and I'm going my normal speed, but I'm not hearing the corresponding clicks. Like I'm typing, a couple of things, like I'm typing my name, DAVID, and I'm only hearing, I'm typing DA and I only hear one click. So I'm thinking, did it get both letters and I only heard the one, or so I was having issues logging into things. So it just wasn't working out. So I'm trying to figure out a solution that I can use some sort of computer on the main level of the house without having to take my iMac from Studio B / my office downstairs and putting it somewhere up there. We've considered at some point we're going to have to get a computer for Liz, because we need a new version of QuickBooks. The version of QuickBooks she's using, I think still uses Slate tablets. Okay, it's not that bad. But she doesn't have a proper computer. She's been using a computer from work, which is the Walden School, but we can't put our own private software on there. And so I considered trying to use that computer, at least testing out whether if I use that and then we mirror the screen using Apple TV and I put it on the TV in our living room. I don't know if the resolution is good enough, but then of course that would mean I'd have to get in and change some of the accessibility features. I use, as I've mentioned, I like to reverse the screen so it's a black background and white text and so forth and so on. So we're trying to figure that out. If that works, which we're going to try this weekend, if that works, that would be great. Otherwise, we've considered getting a Mac Mini that we have a wireless keyboard for, and when Liz is going to use it, we find a place to put a monitor that she could use. I just don't know where that could go in our living room. Our living room is small. Our house is small. It's not huge, and it's fine. It's that doesn't matter. But for this, we don't have desk space in our living room, and there's no place in our kitchen to put it. They're the only two rooms on our main level. The foyer. You can't put a computer there, can you? So my computer time has just been down dramatically because, Liz is at work all day, Jane is at work all day. Jacob works most days. He doesn't work on Mondays usually, but so I am the one that watches the dog. So once Liz gets home, because Liz gets home, Jane usually works until 6 or 7 o'clock, and she'll yell at me for saying that. And as I've mentioned before, she only gets paid till 5:30. So it's technically overtime. And don't even get me started with all that. But it's she wants to get stuff done, and I get it. It's got to get done. So I'm the one all day long that quote unquote takes care of the dog. And let's face it, some of that, a good chunk of that is playing with the dog and socializing with him and watching him run around the backyard like a lunatic, which is just outstanding when he runs in the back and gets a wood chip that he knows he's not supposed to have, and then I pretend to run after him so he runs around. And when I catch him, if he doesn't run around, I take the wood chip away. That's his penalty. And we didn't, as I mentioned, when we got him, it's the cage and crate are not for punishment. It's until he's potty trained. And usually the way the day goes, once I get up and I'm out of the shower and downstairs, usually somewhere in the 9 o'clock hour, usually around 9:30, I'm on dog duty at that point. I am from then usually until Liz gets home, because even on her long day she's home 5:30, 6 o'clock. But then obviously I want to talk to Liz for a little while. But do I talk to Liz for a little while or longer than a little while and then give up some computer time? And emails are piling up on non-important email accounts, but there's still ones that I have to check. The main email accounts that I have, I use my iPhone for. But as I've mentioned, I have around 15 email accounts that go into my inbox on my computer, and I only have 4 on my phone because the others are just not that important to put on. And I've considered putting a couple more on my phone just so, just kind of to alleviate, all the backup because when I do get to the computer, then I'm spending all this time just going through emails, and so I'm not getting other stuff done. And there's just stuff that I like to do on the computer more so than using the phone. So it's just been, that part has been difficult. And that being said, though, it's just outstanding having the dog, watching him run around, like I said, in the backyard and playing with him inside, and just watching him grow. And tomorrow is his first, on the day that this episode drops, his first vet appointment. So I'm interested to see what they say. It's a new vet for us. The one that we used when we had Zamboni it's just too far away, as much as we liked him. And don't get me wrong, if we don't like this vet, we will certainly consider driving there. And again, I'm not driving, so it's, it would be up to Liz. But this one is very close to our house. It's just in Wallingford, a neighboring town here in southeastern Pennsylvania. So it's close by, and hopefully it goes well. And he loves going. Ziggy loves going as much as Zamboni does, because Zamboni loves going to the vet. It is just so weird. He was so excited to go, and he just loved to be around folks, and I guess that was it. And to touch on that, and maybe it's just the golden retriever's nature to be friendly to folks. Our neighbor next door, her name is Rosine, and she saw me and Ziggy out in the backyard the other day. She said, "Oh, he's so cute," and she's going on, and he runs right over to her. She didn't come in the backyard, but she was up against the fence, and he's jumping up and wants to meet her, and she's speaking French. She's originally from France. She's speaking French to him, and they're planning on, they're maybe my age or a little bit older. They're planning to move to Jacksonville. He's had a house down there. I may have mentioned it. He has a house down there that that was rented by a player on the Jaguars, actually. So they're planning to move back in a year or two, And once they moved, she told me they were going to get a dog, and she also mentioned that he was so different from the previous dog that lived here, whose name was Cooper. That dog, she said, was kind of afraid of a lot of things. So, maybe it was a rescue, maybe there were some other issues going on there. But Ziggy just loved folks, loves to, when he got mad, he saw our male gal walk away. That's her term for herself. We gave her a gift at Christmas time, and she wrote us a thank you note, and she wrote her name. Her name is Karima, and she said, "Karima, your male gal." So she saw, or he saw her walking down the sidewalk after she dropped mail off at our house today, and he just was whining a little bit and sad that she was leaving. He hasn't met her yet, so again, he hasn't had any shots, his second round of shots or third round or however many they have. So there's a couple of things that that we don't take him out. We haven't taken him around the neighborhood yet, and we are planning to do that, but to carry him until he has all his shots by the time he's like 16 weeks. Maybe we'll carry him around a little bit, let him have a look around. He gets a good look out our front window because we have the big windows, and so he loves sitting there watching the crossing guard with the kids in the afternoon. And the cars go by and the people on the sidewalk and stuff like that. So he just seems to be, he just seems like Zamboni was. He just seems like he's going to be, just very friendly to folks. So we'll have to see how that goes. But, some of the stuff that he does and, that he doesn't do, he's getting to the point where he's so close to being able to jump up on our coffee table in our living room. He's very close to jumping up on our couches, both of which Liz doesn't want, and I get it. And as much as I'd like, and I sometimes put him on my lap while I'm watching TV, I know that at some point he's going to be too heavy for me to sit there with him. So, so it's just been a blast watching him. And again, you can follow him on Instagram. Ziggy and the Man is where I post for him. He certainly doesn't know how to post, so I have to tell you, he loves my phone. When I take my phone out and he hears VoiceOver start, he stops whatever he's doing and he comes over and he starts putting either his mouth on the corners of the phone, or he just starts hitting his nose against the screen. So, and it's funny because with VoiceOver and with any iPhone, things would go on, but with VoiceOver, no matter what you hit, if I've got it opened, it says something. It'll say, what app it is, or if I'm in, text messages, it'll read a text message. So it's kind of funny how he kind of is drawn to the phone. It'd be interesting to see if he could actually use it. I was showing him, or Jane was showing him, I guess, a TikTok of a dog doing something the other day, and it's funny how he was paying attention for a little bit, and then he started to try to bite the phone. It's also funny, as we're watching TV, sometimes he'll walk past the TV and he'll stop and he'll sit down and he'll watch for a little bit. And that is hysterical. He really, I don't know if he likes it. I don't know if it's because of all the movement. When I am watching football, he will stop and sit, and he'll stay. That's been the longest that he sat for. I haven't tried other sports yet. I tend not to watch hockey on TV because of the glare. As I've mentioned before, I don't see a lot of things, but glare I see very well. So I don't tend to watch too much hockey on TV because of that. Obviously, in the playoffs, I'll watch a little bit more and deal with it. But soccer, when I watched the Premier League, he didn't seem too interested in. Baseball, I don't know. I don't think there's enough movement in that for him to be interested. And I'm not a big basketball fan, so I don't think he'll be following that. But who knows? I might have it on one day and he watches. But it is very interesting to watch him grow. And again, some of the things that a sighted person would take for granted, hey, you get a dog, you can't go down to an office where your computer is. Oh, you just sit in the other room with the laptop and you can do it. And I can't at this point. And I'm hoping that at some point I will learn VoiceOver properly. But like I mentioned with the iPad, VoiceOver is not, it causes other issues. And listening to other podcasts dealing with blindness, they talk about some of them. Any kind of, one app might not work well with it. and talking about the iPad or the iPhone. So I'm sure there are those same things with with a MacBook or a MacBook Pro or whatever, that crop up. So I just know that there's things that I have to do during the day, keyword research for some websites I'm working on, and just going to Fiverr and placing that order for the for the intro, which I have the page open. I've had it open 3 days here on this computer, and other things have just gotten in the way. That I'd like to be able to do, while I'm sitting up there and maybe he's napping. I mean, it's getting to the point where today, for example, he was very, very active, and I was with him. Probably spent a couple of hours, 2 or 3 hours outside off and on throughout the day, and and then playing with him inside, and all the other stuff that goes on with it. So when he lays down for a minute, it'd be nice to be able to, get a few things done. So we'll see how that goes. And if you have any ideas, I'd really be interested in hearing from you. Again, ican'tseeyouPodcast@gmail.com if you want to shoot me an email if you have an idea. Again, we're going to try the Apple TV screen mirroring thing with Liz's laptop over the coming weekend, and we'll see how that goes, and hopefully that'll work, because I'm very hopeful for that. And or again, if you have an idea you don't want to email, you give me a call, 646-926-6350. Anything idea-wise would be helpful if I could get back on the computer during the day. and again, those same places you can contact me if you've got show ideas. Again, until I get the computer thing situated and some time, once we maybe bring him either down into the office or whatnot, once we get it puppy proofed enough. Again, the stairs are a little bit hairy for him at this point, so it's probably not going to be for a few weeks. I can't schedule these interviews with other podcasts, so for other podcasts. So for the time being, it looks like it's going to be solo shows until we figure that out, unless the people are well outside my time zone, East Coast time, where I can do them late at night like I'm recording this. So please give me a buzz if you have some ideas. Shoot me an email. You can always connect on social with me at David Benj everywhere. And again, Ziggy and the Man on Instagram for pictures of Ziggy, sometimes with me, sometimes not. I really do appreciate you listening to this episode of the I Can't See You podcast. Please, if you're interested in coffee and you want to help out the Keystone chapter of the National Federation of the Blind of Pennsylvania, please use my link, ican'tseeyou.com/coffee. I Can't See You sounds like a whole sentence. It's only 7 letters long, ican'tseeyou.com/coffee. That will give the Keystone chapter a commission, 10% commission, if you make a purchase at White Cane Coffee Company, a great organization started by a blind young woman out in Warren, Pennsylvania. She hires blind and other disabled folks to run her shop and do the shipping and work in the coffee shop that they have out there in Warren. And again, when you use my link to buy the coffee, which is outstanding, the coffee that is, the Keystone chapter will get a 10% commission, and that will help since we've had some other fundraisers not work out because we can't meet folks face to face. But again, I do appreciate you listening today. Go to ican'tseeyou.com/coffee and buy some coffee, and I will talk to you next week. Please continue to stay safe and be well. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the I Can't See You podcast. Follow David on Twitter. He is at David Benj.